This is a very important video. Why single men are happier than you think. Basically, it's important because I do a lot of videos, and where I'm coming from is all about take charge mentality. But I know there's a lot of guys who right now are at a stage in their life where it's like, well, I'm taking charge by deciding to kind of isolate self, for want of better words, or remain single is a nice way to put it. The gentleman in the top left-hand corner. I say this video kind of probably summarises it as good as what I've seen. So that's why I'm going to play it anyway. Let's go.
Single men are much happier than most people think. In fact, being single is such a relief for most men once they release themselves from that cultural paradigm that they need to have a woman in their life in order to be considered relatively happy. Well, the truth could not be further from the paradigm that we're living in. Men are much happier on their own without a woman in their lives, especially these days. Men right now, even approaching a woman, is a very risky proposition. There's a relatively good chance that whatever you do is going to result in you either being canceled or turned into somebody's TikTok meme or being accused of being a creep or a predator. So why even bother? I mean, there's just way too much risk and way too little reward for most men to justify getting into a serious relationship with a woman. I would suggest that not only is it a bad idea for men to do this, but I think that men will ultimately be way happier on their own when they find their own path and they let go of this idea that they need to have a woman in their lives. Women are much more trouble than they're worth. Now, if you're a man and you're married and you've got a woman in your life, I hope it works out for you. But for those of you who have not found a woman and you feel like you need to, I want to offer this to you as an opportunity to give life a different thought, have a different perspective. Consider the possibility that not having a woman in your life is a blessing, and the opportunity for happiness for you is just as great or greater than any married man could be. So let's talk about it. We all get one life to live, and finding happiness is elusive enough as it is. But when men are facing bigotry from women that is endorsed and accepted by society as a whole, it makes it even more difficult. And so endeavoring to build relationships with women for many men is becoming less and less of an option. Men going their own way is just the natural order of things. And there's an enormous amount of fulfillment and opportunity for men out there on their own. And in fact, in many ways, women are a hindrance to men's happiness. It's our belief and idea that we need to have a woman in our life that has been the historical norm and the paradigm that we have been living under for such a long time, that breaking free of that paradigm and exploring our happiness and our independence and our ability to find meaning in our lives without the burden of having to care for a woman is just a great opportunity. So don't feel for a moment that you're not complete as a man just because you're not married or you don't have a full-time woman in your life. Because women are just one thing. They're just one option. And for those of you guys who are happily married, good for you, good on you. But if anyone who has been married for any length of time knows, it's not an easy track. I mean, it's a very, very difficult task being in a long-term relationship with a woman. They're very difficult to manage. They're extremely emotional. They're extremely irrational. And they're very simple and straightforward in their needs and their desires, and they communicate it to you directly. Women are not like that. And so having relationships with them can be extremely difficult. So today we're going to talk about how men find happiness on their own without a woman in their lives.
All right, before we get into that, we're going to have a very, very quick summary. So you've got this cultural expectation that that men need women to be happy, that expectation. But basically you're saying that in trying to make that happen, that you got certain issues. Some of those are kind of like you got risk of being cancelled, being called a creep. So, why bother? The thing I kind of counterbalance that with, we're talking about very kind of niche reasons, if it's so basically, if it's not a completely smooth road and if everybody isn't absolutely kind of up for it, hands in the air saying like, will you chat me up? Is that what we're talking about? Because not everybody's going to be into everybody and not everybody's going to be good people to chat up. So you just kind of filter better. He did talk about bigotry from some ladies. I think he's talking about this kind of rise of modern feminism. Traditional feminism is about kind of equality. I don't think any man has got a problem with that. I really don't, apart from the niche. But the modern feminism has a slightly different twist on it. So that might be where he's coming from that. But then he talked about the natural order of things to be isolated. It's not the natural order of things. For example, men are sexually driven. That's it, right? The world turns. This is why we got a kind of population going forwards, you know what I mean? And we don't just kind of go extinct. It's not the natural order of anything. We can survive within in our own isolation, or we can choose isolation. That's absolutely natural and that's fine. But it's not the natural order of things, though. The natural order of things is to be in a unit. Well, kids definitely, maybe wife, in terms of Western cultural perspective, in which is what he was talking. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, if you're saying can still be complete and single, listen, ultimately, you can still be satisfied. I think there's a happiness level, and there's a general kind of satisfied with life level, which is not bad at all if you're single. And we all go through periods of being satisfied. You know what I mean? There's no real issues, and be single. So fair enough. What I would say is don't forget also, I'm kind of stuck on this thing. Don't forget you've got your passport. You do those kind of passport videos. I've got a few of those. It sounds like they're, I say, tired of the bigotry, what he mentioned, and this modern feminist perspective from too many ladies. He might need to get his passport and go out to the Far East or somewhere else where you can find the types of ladies that you're looking for. I don't think we need to go that extreme. I think if you keep on looking, if you keep on looking in the same places, you get the same results. So if you're quite fond of living in a given town, look where he's living. Absolutely amazing. He can walk his dogs. It's a great place to live. Maybe it's a little bit too rural to meet somebody. I'm just putting it out there because I'm a city dweller. I live in London, which is an absolutely amazing, bustling city. I love living here. It's as simple as that. But so yeah, so you've got to take positives. As a man, you've got to prioritize what matters most. So if kind of further in your line, if being in a happy kind of relationship with somebody isn't the top priority, then you may prioritize isolation and live with it. You know what I mean? If you're quite fond of, yeah, I've worked very hard in order to achieve these things. I'm in a career in a particular company, and maybe I can't relocate. Maybe I won't even bother asking, or maybe I just can't. Maybe my skills are not transferable. Basically, what I'm saying is, those are the excuses. If you prioritize that, if your life depended on doing everything necessary so you could find somebody, then you would do it. But it's not a question of your life depending on it, isn't it? It's a question of choice. And effectively, people quite satisfied to be isolated and single. Absolutely fine. Anyway, let's go forwards.